Hey everyone, you are watching Conversations in Pop Culture, and I am your host, Andrew Davis, and this episode is brought to you by my sponsor, BCW Supplies. Use code POPAnimeComics to get 10% off your entire order, and you can get bags, boards, long boxes, anything you need to protect your comic books. Please go use that code because it does help to support this show, as well as tomorrow night at 9 o'clock. I am talking about my favorite topic, which is comic books and money. And it is the most important thing that you can watch all year long so far, because let's face it, we are in a recession. But I'm not going to bore you. The link will be in the description in a few seconds here for that event. It's totally free. But again, I'm not going to bore you because I have with me the comic writer and creative team, or one half of the creative team of Avalon, Brandon Starocci. And hopefully I got your name right. If I didn't, I'm sure you're going to correct me. But welcome back to the show.
Hey, it's good to be back. It is Starocci. I think you got it right the first time when I was on the show, but
I try.
No.
I'm not perfect. What can I say?
As
much as I like to think that I am, I'm not perfect.
You're perfect enough for me. Yeah, to make you feel a little better about it, everybody who messes it up that way. So maybe it just looks like that, and I'm saying it wrong. Maybe I'm saying it wrong.
It's all right. It's all right. I can take the L for the day. I'm more than happy to take the L for the day. But obviously enough joking around and all that stuff, because you are in the middle of a Kickstarter right now, or maybe not the middle, but at the beginning of your Kickstarter with Avalon issue 2. And I know that you've had a pretty decent start. I think you got at least 50 more days. So no major pressure at the moment.
Yeah,
what is the basic story for Avalon for those who haven't heard about it and haven't seen our first interview and all that stuff? Because people are going to come into this and see this for the first time, or they might have forgotten what's going on with it on a basic level.
So Avalon, the basic gist of Avalon, the story is it's a post-apocalyptic storyline. We're holding a lot of different aspects of it, like a noir feel to it, zombie apocalypse, realism, and all that stuff. Or you're following a family by the last name Castle. They have a lot of problems that they've had before the apocalypse, and then they, just like normal families, we just kind of let's just hope for the best. Hopefully, time will tell. But then the apocalypse happens, forces them to deal with their problems. It brings them together. You can't just be mad at each other on Facebook and all that stuff. So they have to be there and deal with their problems with this apocalypse kind of at bay there. You're going to follow them throughout a lot of this. Issue 1 kind of sets the world and builds the world that you're going to see in the future. Currently, issue 2 right now picks up a lot where issue 1 kind of leaves off. And there's a little bit, the minor cliffhangers that are left in issue 1 are explained in issue 2 here. And there's a little more action in issue 2 coming up here. And it's kind of like a little more fast paced with stuff going on as we built up a lot of that in issue 1 there.
Yeah, and let's really dive into this, because obviously there's a lot of stuff going on, and I don't think it's any secret to say that the post-apocalyptical genre has been very much overplayed. Whether you're a Walking Dead fan, obviously Attack on Titan is another one, 1984, Fahrenheit 451, and I could throw 15 others, 28 days. But what you've done is that I feel like you've taken almost a mental health book, and then you transposed it over a zombie apocalypse / outbreak to some degree that has sort of, that supernatural feel to it. And what was that like? Because I think that's where this becomes different.
Just to kind of tag off of that a little bit. Yeah, it is something that we kind of addressed while we were in the beginning stages of this. Although when we were in the beginning stages of this was pre-COVID. With COVID going on, it was because I remember talking in the past, in the last conversation that we had together, you kind of brought up how COVID, it kind of like helps this and all that stuff. And it kind of did in different ways because, like you said, the mental health kind of aspect of it, the realism of it, all that stuff, because we just, like you mentioned before, we did just come out of a pandemic of ourselves. So then you got to understand and see how other people reacted to shutdowns, how people got to react to different things like that. And, although it wasn't apocalyptic type in real life, this, I take it the extra mile. So this is more apocalyptic. So now you're getting more stress rather than just COVID being COVID. You're getting really punched in the face. This is like a real, like, oh, now I have to, it's like survival of the fittest almost immediately. so and that was to tag on the mental health and other aspects of the genres. It has been done a million different ways. So what's the difference between ours and everybody else's? Is the truth is we're not trying to change a huge aspect of the genre, because the zombie genre is a zombie genre. There's not much you can do about it. There's zombies, and you're trying to survive. But like you mentioned, is we're bringing this mental health kind of address to it. Real life medications, real life injuries, real life family problems, just real life. We're trying to bring as much real life into this fictional world as we can without making it too, because I know there's like a weird gray area that you can't really flirt with too much realism and too much fiction and all that stuff. But I think with the team that I have around me, it helps me go down the right path. And I do have, and I think that's important to have a bunch of good team members around you to make sure this stays on a good path and doesn't get mixed up and destroyed.
And to even go further into this, because obviously one of the things that I feel is lacking in comics, and look, when you read a comic, there has to be some suspension of disbelief.
Right.
But by
I think I lost him. I think I lost you there.
It's going to do this. And tomorrow I'm calling my cable company, clearly, and maybe I'll stream that instead.
Yeah. Now you got to scream at them and get a refund and all that stuff.
I'll stream the entire phone call. It'll be a fascinating interview, Andrew versus cable company. But I digress right there. But what is that like for you? Because obviously there is the issue of suspending, believing and suspending disbelief for the sake of a story, but also realizing, saying, hey, there has to also be like a real connection. I feel like comics are lacking that, and there's a lot of issues currently going on, I feel, where people aren't going deep enough.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, I'm not sure if you ended it because I kind of cut out there.
No, I didn't end it. So it's the idea of like, where do you even find that line, I guess, is the question. Of where realism begins and then fiction begins, and then where not to cross.
So yeah, okay. I'll try to answer bits and pieces of what I heard before it kind of cut out here and there. But yeah, it's one of those things where I think a little bit that benefits me personally. I can't speak for others, but I'm very selective with what I read in the comic world. Although I wish I was more of like a comic geek and all that stuff, and kind of jumped on it because I love the community. Everybody loves it. Ever since I started this, and I go out and do these events, I do like book signings and all that stuff. Talking to everybody that's part of this community, it's awesome. These people that are in this community are great, and I wish I was more involved in it. I mean, before I got into the writing aspect and the creating element of it. But I think that's honestly what helps me a little bit, is because I do watch shows and TVs that bring that, like, the punch, and they can, and the actors. I think it's important because the actors express the realism. The actors, and speaking of shows too, is they get to draw that out a little more. And I think me being so invested in those, it kind of makes me have a mentality of that kind of stuff rather than writing it in comic form, where sometimes they just get some comics get very fairy tale like, where it's just like very like do whatever, and it's just very flashy and it's exciting, but you can only match that excitement for like 6 issues and then you're done. So I think it's just trying to keep the ongoing series thing in my mind and letting things breathe, not expecting a huge crowd in the beginning. But when, say you start reading Avalon by issue 10, when you start from the beginning, you're going to get a good storyline. You're going to get, oh, that's okay, I see this.
Even talk about that, because one of the things that's fascinating right now in comics is that there's a bunch of trends that have occurred in comics. So there's been a lot of one-shots that people are dropping, and even big companies are doing it. People are also doing big 72-page issues and what I call a mini graphic novel. And then people are doing the limited series. And I understand the idea of a limited series because you're testing a market over 5 issues and you're not making a huge commitment. And if it flops, you only have to do 5 issues. And also, but it seems like you want to go ongoing in a lot of ways. And so what is that like? Because if you do a limited series, if you do 5, you could then do a sequel, but it's also tricky to some degree. And so I'm very curious, even you're planning for that, because I don't know if you know who Ed Davis is, but he's doing like 39 to 40 issues in an indie title. And that's a lot of planning because you need to know what happens in issue 15 so that you could set it up in issue 5, if that makes any sense.
Right. No, yeah. And so the reason, what I'm kind of currently doing, I don't know if this is the right way, so I'm not telling anybody how to do it. It's kind of me learning along the ways. And again, this is why it's crucial, at least speaking for myself, is to have a good team around me to make sure all these dots are connecting properly. For me, I do have ideas up, I would say off the top of my head, up to like 30, 40 issues. I know where I kind of want this story to go. I have a general idea. Obviously, that's subject to change depending on how I get to the details and the nitty grit of the issue. Right now, I have currently I have 8 issues written out, and I'm working on. I'm kind of dabbling with some of that stuff as well, and then I'm going to be moving on to issue 9. So I'm breaking it up. I think I'm doing 1 through 6, 6 issues per volume. And to me, that's a season. So like when you watch a series, you get the overall season message. There's little messages hidden, and then you get the overall season message. So I'm working on the overall season message for 2, which, I already got that. And I'm working out the little messages too. And then now right in my head, since I know the big message of season 2, I know the big message of season 3 right now. Not that I'm getting into the detail work of season 3, which would be, 13 on whatever plus 6 is. But that's kind of what it is. And it's just to continuously keep my mind going. And when I get to issue 15, 16, I'll have a better understanding of where I think issue 45 or 60, or if I'm going to end it. Do you see what I'm saying? So I think that's the beauty of it is I at least in my head have at least 30, 40 issues in my head planned out. And then writing wise up to like 8. And I'm working on the detailed part of season 2 right now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because this is one of the things where when you start building out a universe, it gets very tricky. And, because obviously you want to connect dots, and then also even when you start going outward. And this is what's fascinating. And there's been a lot of stuff that's been going on in comics. And obviously there's been, and I'm currently working on something that's sort of talking about this more on the business side. And this is why it's fascinating for me, because I've seen a bunch of stuff pop up, such as limited series and also one-shots and also longer form content. And it's very interesting how there's almost a divide with ongoing versus limited series, and even how to structure a story. And then obviously, but we don't need to go into that. I don't want to push too hard on that. I don't want to ruin things for people and what they can expect. But even going further into this story, because obviously issue 1 ends on a very, very prominent cliffhanger for one of the brothers. And now, and then it also foreshadows something that's going to happen to another one, or another one's going to be somewhat involved directly or indirectly. And obviously this is sort of, now we're getting into the nitty gritty of this mental health issue with this family. And we're starting to sort of figure out, okay, why do they have problems? And not every issue is revealed in this, but we're getting hints as to what happened, why there's issues, who they exactly are. And I don't want to say the outbreak is in full swing in issue 2, but it's starting to get there.
Yes. So you're starting to get a better understanding of what this is, because I've spoken to people as well. And this isn't even really intended. I just thought it was really cool that it ended up like this. Is issue 1 held a very suspenseful, like noir kind of feeling, where it's like, you're still not sure what the hell this is. This could be, sure, I preach zombie apocalypse or infection, post-apocalypse kind of thing, but it holds that element where it's like, oh, like this could just be some crazy lady, whatever it might be. But like, obviously you're going to get more and more and more and more. And we're trickling in the little like infection in the background of the story where like somebody's getting bit, or, oh, this person's sick. And then one of the brothers stumbles across something, and it ends off on that. And like I said, like with issue 2, which is, it punches you right in the face with what, and answers those questions immediately. I'm not letting that hold out like something dumb. I don't know who would do that, but I think it ends on a really good note, and we answer on a really good note, and it opens the door for issue 3. And the draft, or not the draft, the looking back at issues 1 through 6 is we're very happy with the arc that we created. There's a lot of stuff, like you said, with the mental health, what the background of this family is, their relationships with each other, and it opens the door, and you're like, holy shit. You're either going to relate to it, and you're going to go, oh, there's more to going on than I thought in issue 1. I thought Mason just had anxiety or whatever it might be, but there's a reason this is all happening. So it's a big arc, and we're happy with what we got with issues 1 through 6. And these characters are really going to go through some tough times. I guess
and let's even go further into this, because obviously, they're now, these 3 brothers have something going on, and they made some choices, and they have certain attitudes and certain things that have happened collectively that has created a division and a fracture that has left, certain things. And obviously one of the brothers is more estranged from the family than the others. And now what's starting to happen is that this pandemic is slowly rolling out. And I'm calling it a pandemic. It could be an infection. It could be disease.
It could be whatever
right now. Be infected, and it's just a matter of time. I don't know exactly what it should be called, but the point I think is made. And so now, what is this like? Because now they're dealing with this thing very micro, in a lot of ways, and it's slowly moving outward in issue 2. And well, it's we're starting to see really the nature of these people, and not even just the brothers, but even just this town and this sort of small city in a lot of ways, because it's got, and we're starting to see how do people really act, and in particular, really the brothers, I feel, is sort of the main focus, and the people they surround themselves with.
Yeah, no, and that's just it. And you're gonna see all that kind of play out throughout this whole kind of season. But to speak of issue 2 is, like I said, you're really gonna get a lot of answers to questions that were made in issue 1, and you're gonna get more questions. So. And I believe you're going to be invested in these characters. You're going to wonder why Andy is acting that way. You're going to wonder why Ty and Mason are this way. You're going to wonder why certain characters are acting certain ways, and why some characters you think would be good with each other or awkward with each other. And that's just to me, that's like the good thing about Avalon so far. And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back because of this, but that's the difference. That's why I enjoy even just reading it, as I know I'm the writer and creator, but as like a fan of it, because I was missing that for all these years, being a zombie genre kind of person. It's to really get those problems, family issues, because everybody's got them. We all got our family issues. Obviously, they need to be a little more elevated, and some weird little ties into stories to make it relevant, but that's what I believe that I was missing in the zombie genre for a while there. And The Walking Dead did it a little bit, but it's still, for me, it wasn't hitting what I was asking for. And I feel like this is doing it for at least me. And I'm glad that this is coming to life here, and I hope other people enjoy it as well.
And then to even go further into that, I mean, obviously we do get to see these characters interact with each other, and almost, and it's inevitable what's going to happen, where factions are going to be forming up. Mm-hmm. And then obviously once you start going into the full swing of things, power gets, distributed, people take power, people are dealing with things, people get infected, and you got to deal with those problems. And obviously it opens up a whole bigger door as well in a lot of ways. And, we get to really see how, Group A and Group B and Group C interact with each other, and then also the mingling of the groups to some degree. That's coming, and it's not necessarily an issue 2, but it's starting to form really.
All of that, yeah, and that's just the funny thing too with all of it too, is like how you're going to eventually come across these groups, and whatever these groups have and whatever it might be, but you're also, while this is all going on, they still have to fix the problem within each other. There's still that lingering problem that they need to fix, because at least and I'll speak for The Walking Dead, there's I don't know if you were a fan or watched it, but at least they punched their problem right in the face that they had within, and they moved on. This is you're going to feel that lingering kind of can they just do this? But then but you need to stop yourself for a second. Sure, but you got to understand that's the real life part of it. That's the real life. I mean, you're not gonna. Some people might just simply not go up to another person to handle the problem right away. Sure, sometimes it's annoying, but maybe you're not supposed to like a certain character. You know what I mean? Until they go over an arc or something like that. You know, that you got to go through these little things to hate or like or whatever these characters. You're not supposed to like every character or whatever, but so that's what we're trying to put out there is like maybe this character is what most people would be like. This character is like the Hollywood character. You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to break it out in that kind of way. And I really don't want any Hollywood characters. I don't know why I said that. I don't want anything crazy like these. I'm not trying to make these characters like the new face of Hollywood. I want it to be normal, like your average Joe's kind of people.
To even talk about that, because that's also one of the things that's also changing in comics, I feel. Going back, and I had a friend of mine, Joseph Dewis, on, and he basically has taken a golden age public domain character and fast forwarded and sort of taken them and evolved them and wrote them as if those stories never ended. And it's a new story, but it goes back to almost that these characters that are public domain are everyday average superheroes. And I feel like that's another thing that's also somewhat missing in comics. And I feel like there's a massive disconnect with Marvel, DC, and even with some Image books that, hey, these characters are larger than life, and that's great. And it's fun to have larger than life things. But also, I want to relate to these characters. And I think that's where a lot of comics are missing to some degree, is that they're forgetting that, hey, while I want to escape, I also want this character to have a bad day. I want this character to go to the grocery store and have the frustration of waiting in line. And it sounds crazy, but, even like imagine Bruce Wayne is going to buy milk and he has to wait in line because some lady is using a coupon and it's not working. And that's a normal everyday thing. And I use that as an example. And so what is that like? Because that's something that I think you're touching on. And The Walking Dead does some of that, but it, as another example, but it also suspends a lot of that connection.
Right. Yeah, no, and I'm glad you mentioned stuff like that, is because it's not, although we're not having Andy waiting in line for milk and getting mad, but stuff like that where it's like real frustrations, real problems, real anxieties, real mental disorders, and all that stuff coming in here, and real just injuries. A lot of things that shows miss, and just average sicknesses, kill people. Like spider bites can kill people. Like, although it'd be a stupid way to have Rick Grimes die from a spider bite, but you know what I mean? Like stuff like that happens, so without proper assistance, if you have a heart attack, you're going to end up dying, like, that's what I feel like a lot of these big shows are missing. And it's personally, I enjoy that stuff. I enjoy the realism of it. And I remember way back when Red Dead Redemption came out, the second one. And I remember hearing spoilers, and spoiler alert for anybody who didn't play the game. It's been out for almost 10 years, but, or no, what is it, like 5, 6, 7 years? But when Arthur died, he died from TB. Are you kidding me? I remember that pissed me off originally, but I was like, actually, that's a cool thing. That was a real thing that was killing people back then. So I thought, like, thinking about it, I was like, okay, that's cool. He didn't die in like a heroic way. He died because of TB was killing him. So just stuff like that, like real problems, real sicknesses, real anxieties, and all that stuff. I want to bring that into this world because a lot of people in the zombie genre just want to hit the action. They want the crazy zombies. They want the crazy new villain. They want the crazy fight. Just focus on the characters you got and the problems that they got. I feel like that's something that I was missing forever. I hope there's a big fan base that want that as well, because if they do, Avalon's the story you want to read with that.
Yeah, and look, I also think that people also are shifting into more realism. People are shifting out of certain things and then shifting into things. And obviously, I mean, full disclosure, I'm working on my comic book class. And it's no secret, I'm recording it this weekend, the first part, and I'm talking about trends. And on a story trend, there is a bunch of shifts that are occurring, and I think this is one of them. And realism, and even my favorite genre, which is dirty realism, has been very much dead for a very long time. And I think a lot of people are now saying, hey, I kind of want some of this stuff back to some degree. And I think people are saying, look, I want it done well. And, it's tricky because realism done really badly is really bad.
Oh yeah. Well, that's what I think scares people away from realism, is
There's no
because a lot of
hiding in realism.
right.
That's the thing, right? You could hide in fantasy, you could hide in sci-fi,
Yeah,
you could hide in a zombie apocalypse. Where if you have a stupid zombie apocalypse, you could hide, you could mask it in a lot of ways if it's just a straight up zombie apocalypse. But you can't hide in a real military book. You
no.
can't hide in realism. You can fix realism, but you can't hide in it. You could write average realism, but if it's bad, it's bad.
Yeah, I
And
think that's the point where a lot of the fiction as well, but you gotta walk that fine line and make sure. And again, this is why I rely on the team I got around me, is make sure you're on that line the whole time and you're not bleeding in wrong things at wrong times and all that stuff. So, because when you do too much realism, if I just made a comic book about my average life, nobody's buying that comic book. It's very boring and very bleak. So that's that. So with the elements of fiction and all that stuff, it really helps. Like you said, you could jump in that world, but also hold those character elements of people that, oh, I can relate to that person. I have anxiety about that. Oh, I take that medication. Oh, that would scare the shit out of me. You know what I'm saying? Like, jump into those characters and what they would do, and like, okay, I would do something similar to that, and actually ask yourself what you would actually be like in some sort of an apocalypse, because we just went through it, or pandemic. So what were you like during the pandemic? Now escalate that by times 20, so ask yourself. So
yeah, and then obviously, I do want to back out of this, and I do want to talk inside baseball because you're doing something very interesting, and I actually am curious because on the business side of things is definitely where I'm at. Well, I mean, I'm more of a comic book investor, not necessarily a Kickstarter person, but I ran a Kickstarter, and they're stressful for lack of a
oh
better word.
yeah.
And one of the things that you did, and I'm probably going to do it myself, or I might do a hybrid of it, is you ran for 60 days instead of 30. And
Yeah.
so, what was the rationale behind that? Because that's a really good question. Because I've seen people run. I don't know if you know who Tom Hutchinson is, but he
No.
did one that was 2 weeks, and he just said, "Screw it, I'm going to go 2 weeks." And he did very well with it. I've seen people do 3 weeks, and they said, "Look, week the middle is always slow anyway, so why should I go through that? And I'll do 21 days or 22 days." And then I've seen people say, "Hey, look, I'm doing my 4 weeks." And then I've seen 60, and then, so on and so forth. So I'm very curious why 60 days, because it's not traditional per se.
Yeah, I mean, every time I kind of look into it and I kind of get into the community, it isn't very traditional, like you mentioned. But Alan and I were talking. Alan was the one that was in the last guest when we were talking together. We were going through it. We're like, because the last two of them we did 60 days, and the way we look at it, the more time we have to do stuff like this or do stuff to hound our friends and family. So, so it's just like, for me, I do know there is because there's time and time again I talk to people like, oh, I have 60 days, I have 50 days, I have that. So it's just like you do have that period, but I think it's more of like an anxiety thing for myself. Like, if I do 30 days, then am I going to get this money that I'm asking for? Because I don't know. I got to find proper communities to get this out to, not just friends and family. Because with issue 1, we were really targeting just friends and family, and anybody else who saw it, great, wonderful. We want you, please jump on our and help us out. This one we kind of obviously, if you compare the two, this one is a little more in depth. We tell you about ourselves. It's a thank you, why we chose Kickstarter, where to find us, and all that stuff, and a little bit more about the story as well. So we're looking for a bigger audience, and I
So,
don't
so,
know.
so, so, so let me ask. There's a lot of stuff that's actually interesting. So obviously, with promoting, let me actually start with the 60 days. Do you feel though that also 60 days gives you a better and bigger window for also getting it done? Because that's another thing too. That I mean, on my last comic book hangout, and obviously I mix things up, and I'm sure I'll have you back on at another point on
Oh,
that.
of course.
But one of the things that we were talking about is Kickstarter just changed their rules, where you can now, after a certain amount of projects, run back to back. And I was making the argument during that entire thing that it's going to facilitate bad behavior. And what I mean by that is it's going to encourage people to do multiple projects, and then one project gets messed up and then it screws up the entire thing. And I also feel that people say, hey, look, I'm 50% done with my book and I'm launching with 30 days. And the way I view it is that on day 31, you got 2 weeks for the money to clear. So it's a 6-week cycle. And then the timer is ticking when you got to get me your book. So do you feel that with 60 days, you extend that timer?
Yeah, I think for me it makes me feel a little more relieved that I do have 60 days. Is it ideal? No, I'd rather have my issue out sooner than six, because with this it pushed our issue release date back. The original day month was supposed to be July. I wanted to get it out in July, but impossible. So then it was like early August. Again, now it's impossible because we did the third week 60 days, and you need to wait the 14 days to even get the money. If you even get the money. I mean, hopefully we do. But and then after that, you're looking at a week, maybe a week and a half to get your comics after you order them. So now we're looking at the end of August, early September for issue 2 release. But it does give you breathing room because we are independent. Although nobody wants to wait that long, I don't want to wait that long. It's a little bit of an issue because we're building up a community and a fan base in the meantime of trying to get this story out. I'm a believer in good storytelling, and for people to jump in your community bandwagon, you have to have a good story and a good foundation. So with that being said, this gives me more time to breathe and focus on slowly building this community around me, like doing these interviews, meeting you guys, meeting the community and people, your followers, and all that stuff. And hopefully they jump on our wagon as well and help us out, because all the support and all the help we can get is awesome. This is our love. This is our life and our dream. We want to get this out and do this to the point where we can get month-to-month basis. I'd love to get it out every month. But I think that's more or less where my head is at with the Kickstarter currently. And doing the 60 days is because we're trying to gain a following before we get overwhelmed with, like, because I don't know if I'm going to grab $2,000 in 30 days, so stress, I guess, is what it is. I don't know.
Because I mean, this is one of the things that I'm figuring out. And obviously Kickstarters are massively stressful. And I haven't decided if I'm going to be running a Kickstarter, for season 4. I might go a completely different route. And it also has other consequences. But I'm not going to go into that. That's a different discussion for a different day. But the idea is that I ran mine, and it was a very, very, very intense 30 days. And it was a very exhausting 30 days. And I didn't do a lot of media either. And that's something that I got to do anyway. But that's something that, obviously I think, and also, the idea of, and this is what bothers me, is that I don't get why you wouldn't want to crowdfund 365 days a year. Indiegogo has an option where you can have almost print on demand. And that's something that, like, I don't get, where once you meet your goal and you cover a bunch of print costs, why wouldn't you want to just ultimately just run a continuous crowdfunder for the entire project and just have money coming in and then almost release it quarterly? And maybe I think like a business, and maybe, I'm not thinking like a crowdfunder the same way. Like, I wish I could do that with my show and be like, hey, here's my whole thing, and this is when you need it, you just throw me some money, and then you get into the system, you get into the queue. It'd be so much easier for me to do that, but it would be a crowdfunding. That's just a queued up crowdfunder, 365 days every single year. It'd be so much easier.
Yeah, I don't know, and that's the thing with us too. Is just like we've mentioned in the past, is like Kickstarter is simply a tool for us, but it is one of those things where it's like, can you get more out of it? And the 60-day thing, now that I was thinking about it too, is like everyday life gets a hold of you too. So it's like, I can't every single week, I can't grab 4 or 5 interviews. You know what I mean? So, and I feel like I would have to, if I had 30 days or less, I would have to constantly be in everybody's face. And the unfortunate thing is right now, because real life is real life, I don't have the time to do 3, 4, 5 interviews a week for 30 days, as it's impossible. And like you mentioned, though, so 60 days gives me that, it stretches it out a little bit so I can hit an interview here or there, talk about it, do more posts, do more events, go out to, my local bookstores and all that stuff and say hi to the community and all that stuff. So it gives me more time to do that. And maybe that's one of those things too, as I forgot to mention as well when you originally brought up the idea with the 60 days, is I think that helps me out a lot more too. It lets me settle down as well, along with getting more time for people to donate.
And then also even just talk about low print goals as well, and low funding. I mean, one of the things for me in my campaign is I needed more than $750. I needed way more than what I got on my campaign, but I felt comfortable enough that I could barely fund 750. And look, there were other things going on, and obviously real life does take a hold.
Yeah.
And I didn't come in with a strategy. And if I do come back to Kickstarter, I'm going to start 90 days in advance gearing up for it. And 90 days before. So if I'm running in November, I'm going to start promoting it in June like crazy. I'm going to have the pre-launch page up in June. I'm just going to go and I'm going to be very, very upfront. And I'm going to do legitimately like 100 interviews leading right into it. And then I'm going to do another 50 that month. But I'm a sick human being. And it's doable. It's doable, especially in my space. It's doable. Also understanding valuable media versus unvaluable media is a big one too.
Yeah.
But again, the breakdown of that for anybody who wants to know, if you can get on a show that has 50,000 listeners and it's like a syndicated radio show, it is worth more than getting on 50 shows that have as a cable, they're going to get a nice phone call from me tomorrow, everybody. That's what's going on tomorrow. But anyway, yeah. So
yeah.
That's something that and then also what I was so as I was stating, hopefully for like the 5th time, what is it like to keep your print goal low and keeping your funding goal low? Because that's another thing that I feel is a mistake in Kickstarter.
Yeah, I didn't want anything crazy. Although I would love to have donations up to 5,000, all that stuff. Anything crazy like that, it would be wonderful. It wasn't realistic for us, I don't believe, right now. The last goal our goal last issue was 1,200. We ended up getting 1,700. That definitely helped us with the printing and advertisement and doing more things. Getting more things for people in the future and all that stuff. So hitting this goal, obviously prices of everything raised anyway. So we needed to raise the price just because the cost of printing and getting it out there and shipping and all that stuff. But the more money we get, the more we could do, the more we can get out there. The more like different kinds of variant stuff we could do, different kind of stickers, posts, just anything that you guys would want. And obviously we're open to anything, any suggestions of what people enjoy. If they want to see certain things, we're more than happy to do it. And all that stuff goes into that. And it keeps us relevant. It keeps us out there and all that stuff. So the more money we can get is awesome. But I think 2,000 is a good goal to kind of do what we need to do going forward and all that stuff with this issue and so on, and promoting the brand, But that's why we want to just hit it. We don't want to sit there and waste time and go, oh, we couldn't make it because of whatever reason. We want to hit our goal and do what we need to do with the money that we can get, because we can make $2,000 work.
And even to go further, and you mentioned something very interesting about funding and all that stuff. One of the things that I have an issue with Kickstarter is that there are more projects now on Kickstarter. There are better projects on Kickstarter, and there gets a point, and all media is happening. This is happening to all media, where it is dying a very slow, cold death. Meaning that you have Netflix, you have Hulu, you have Paramount, you have Crunchyroll, you have regular cable, you got Comcast, you got Peacock,
Yeah,
Disney
yeah.
Plus. And now what starts happening is that nobody can afford all of it. HBO Max is another one. Just throw that in there. And we're using TBS as an example because it's the best one. And I feel that's where Kickstarter is going. And even Indiegogo is that there's legitly 14 projects I want to back, and I can't back any of them because I don't have money. And that to
Right.
me seems one of the biggest problems in comics right now, where there is way more demand than in supply.
That is an issue, and although it's kind of the nature of the beast right now that we're kind of everybody's fighting, just like you mentioned, all those like TV show or all that stuff. I can't even think right now. My brain just stopped. But that's what I'm saying. You kind of just have to make a good product. Hopefully, and from in my eyes, just promote to the people who enjoy this genre. I'm not going to sit there and promote this to somebody who watches and only enjoys like Harry Potter stuff. They don't like zombies genre. So I'm not going to go up to them and go, "Hey, do you want to read Avalon?" And really try and waste my time with them and all that stuff. But I'm going to promote to the people who enjoy the stuff, who enjoy horror, who enjoy murder mystery and all that stuff, and kind of approach them with this project. And I think that's the important aspect of right now with the abundance of projects on Kickstarter. Like you said, it's just so much, and there are so many that even I go on there every so often. I'm like, that's a cool comic, but can't afford it. You know what I mean? I can't do it, and that's a problem.
I'm even thinking, even on a bigger level, where it's also the idea that you got to sort through the bullshit.
Right.
I mean, you've heard me say it. You've heard Lori say it about me, where now when I back a project, I vet the creator, and that's another thing that like I actually look at who I'm backing, and I'm looking at your track record. I'm looking at say, hey, how fast do you deliver a book? And maybe it's because I'm an interviewer too.
Right.
And I also have the privilege a lot of times when I'm, backing somebody's project to interview them first and foremost. And so I get an idea. But, one of the things is that it's kind of like, I think that's another thing too that's going on is that it's now not anymore saying, oh, you got a good product. It's what have you done for the community? How nice are you? Are you, being altruistic? Are you generous? Are you actually treating people with respect? And are you nice? Have you, talk shit behind my back? People have done that. And it's a real issue, I think. And also it's, what is your attitude? And there are certain people that I don't want to have back on my show ever again because they have an attitude problem. And so that's a whole big thing. And maybe their bridges got a little too big for the water. And so I think that's the other thing too, is that I feel like there's been a generation of people in the Kickstarter world who have done very well on Kickstarter, but now they're acting like assholes.
see, that's annoying. It's just forgetting where you came from. That's just like in everyday life though too. Like any average job you work, you get people like that where they forget where they came from. They get this certain position, and then they're like, and then they treat people like peons. Like, dude, who the hell are you? You know what I mean? And that's an important thing, and that's something that I value in my life is I never forgot where I came from. I remember working at UPS. I was the one throwing the boxes in the hot trailers. You know what I mean? And I did landscaping with the sun beating on me. I never forgot those people I work with. I still think about those people to this day. I mean, although if they don't think about me, whatever, but those all people have impacts on who I am today. So even the bad impacts, even the people when I got fired from Dairy Queen. So I take that.
I think this is the problem, though. And I think this is the whole issue in comics is that there's a bunch of issues that are occurring. And I think this is some of it where I think that there's an attitude problem. I also think that, people are trying to figure out. And then on top of it, there's so much content out there. And then, what is, I mean, very much, and I'm very honest, where I'm burned out from comics, and I'm burned out from backing people's projects. And I don't back a tremendous amount, but like I'm just sick of Kickstarter. Like I'm exhausted from it.
I can get it. I mean, this is only my second kind of exposure. I think it even shows you who you back. The only person I've really backed was Lori. Because I actually, because that's right down my alley. She's an enjoyable person to talk to because I've been on I think 2 or 3 shows with her. And that's right down my alley. You know what she's making. That's why I backed her stuff. So, and I think she's like real cool. You know, like you said, like it's kind of like watching these people, talking to these people. Like, okay, he or she is cool. Okay, and it looks the product looks good. I'm gonna back it. You know, just help them out. And I think, but she was preaching to someone like me who likes the genre, so she did good there. I like the genre, so I got her product, and she's very enjoyable as well. I probably would have got it even if it wasn't my style. You know, but like, so that's just the thing. And that, like you said, it's important as well. I think it's as long as you're a likable person and I mean, you have a good product. And that's what I was saying earlier too, is I am a sole believer where if you are consistently, and the consistency is right word to put here too, is like, okay, is this person making enough material and is it all good material? I think that's all important and relevant to Kickstarter, because if you keep seeing Avalon, you're like, okay, you know what, I'm going to click it. And then you read Avalon's up, I'm 4 issues deep, and you're like, okay, I actually really enjoyed this. That's what I'm saying. Like, as long as you really continuously, but if they saw Avalon and they got issue 1 and they hated it, they're never going to buy Avalon again. Do you see what I'm saying? So I don't know. I guess I think it's a mixture of both. It's just marketing towards people who enjoy your product, the genre or whatever, and being nice. Don't forget where you come from. Don't be a jackass. You know what I mean? I just that gets you nowhere fast. You'll just get whoever that is, whoever those people you're talking about too, is like they're gonna just stay right here and they're never gonna go high. You know, especially in a world where it's like there's so much out there. You can't burn bridges. You got to be friends with people. You got to be a friendly person. You're nobody. You know, everybody. Why are you treating somebody down? You're nobody better than anybody.
Yeah, well, it's a problem. It's a problem, and you should preach to everybody who talks about supporting indie comics, but they don't support the underlying infrastructure. And it's extremely hypocritical. This entire industry.
And
I mean, I'll just throw it out there. I got no problem admitting it. Where everybody's like, I need media, yet you and sport podcasts that give you the interview. Not you, but you know what I mean.
No, I get it.
And I'm like, and there's a bunch of people who have not asked me for anything, and I think they know better not to. And when they ask me, the question is, where the fuck were you when I ran my Kickstarter in January? Where were you? That's and if they say, hey man, I was in a hospital in a coma, you know what? You get a pass.
Oh yeah, okay. 1 pass and you get it. No more. No, but no, that's I understand what you're getting at. I really do. And even like like even for your stuff,
people say, sorry to interrupt, but people say, oh, I only back projects that I want to read. But yet if I back 14 of your books and you don't back mine, there's a problem. Because at some point you have to give back a little bit. You don't have to give 1 for 1, but there gets a point where you actually have to give back in this industry. And unfortunately, there's been a lot of people who have taken the attitude saying, I only back, what I read. And if you're a friend of mine, it's nothing personal. And I'm like, you could do that to an extent. But again, if I wrote a book about something and it's not your cup of tea, but I've supported you for 5 years and it's my first book, I'm calling bullshit.
No, I think you're right with that statement there. I think it is what it is. I don't understand that. That's my mentality with it as well. What you're explaining, that's my mentality. If I had a friend and they're like, okay, here, donate to this Kickstarter, I don't care what it is. I'm donating to the Kickstarter. You're my friend. Do what you love. You're doing what you love. You're going through the grind. Because if you made a Kickstarter, you're doing something right. At least you have faith in your project. You're doing what you love. I'm going to donate to you. Best of luck to you.
It's not even that for me. There have been people who've been on 6 or 7 times. And the thing is that at a certain point, you have to start throwing some economic weight behind once you get to a certain level. And if you've never thrown economic money, whether it's $5, $10, or $20 behind me, I mean, at a certain point, I say, hey, look, I need the economic support. And once you get to the point where you've been on 8 or 9 times and you haven't financially supported or even said, hey, let me help you out, or actually done something to further the show, it's like, wait a second. There gets to a point where you should have done it a while ago.
Right.
And
right.
if it didn't cross your mind, there's a bigger problem.
Exactly. And I mean, like, why do I have to like say something about it? Or even if you did or something, it's just like sitting there waiting for it and they're not even considering it or like thinking about it or whatever it might be. That's just, again, I'm not like that. I can't speak for them. I don't know where their brains are at with this whole subject or what, what they're thinking.
It's an issue. This is my theory on it, is that everybody pays to play by nature. You go to a con, you got to buy a table. Unless you're a guest and you're big enough or you know somebody or something happened, you got to buy a table. So a table could be $100, it could be $250, it could be $500. I don't know what a table costs at certain cons. It's all different, but that's not the point. Then, or if you're going to do something somewhere and it's a library, maybe you get a free table because it's your local library. But all of a sudden, what starts happening is that there gets to a point where no matter what you're doing, you have to pay to play. And so and people say, hey, look, the podcast world is the last bastion. And they're like, well, a lot of other people have free shows. But again, you look at those free shows, how many of those free shows actually give you the right, questions and all that stuff and actually intellectual discussion? And also, how many of them stick around? I mean, I started doing this 3 years ago. And when I entered the field, I had a bunch of people that I knew who entered after me. And I knew 20 people entered after me. And guess what? 3 of them are left. In this, I mean, minus myself. And then the people who are left, they're doing a comic hangout. They're not doing an interview show. And they're not doing 4 to 6 a week. And that's the thing too.
Right. Whatever floats their boat, and and that's the beauty of it though, is if you love this, which I'm assuming you do if you're doing it this long, keep going, and obviously like you need to be supported financially and all that stuff to keep certain
it's not even financially here. It's a share
yep.
That's what it's more baffling. I would say, and I might put it up, I might say, hey, share this podcast out or send me $5 to my PayPal. And I'm genuinely wondering if I'm going to get more money because people are going to be like, I don't want to share it.
I guess I don't understand that. And
it's mind-boggling.
Just, I don't know. Are you not seeing it? I don't know. I personally don't know. And
I don't get a share. I don't get like it's free.
Yeah. All you got to do is click.
It's mind-boggling. But enough of me ranting. I'm sure I'm going to rant this weekend while I'm unboxing some WWE cards with Chris. That's going to be a fun one. Tomorrow night's going to be fun too. So everybody better tune in for that. That's me lecturing on comic book investing. And let's just say that's going to turn people's brains upside down. And,
I'm sure.
If you know where I'm going with it, you're going to learn that on October 5th you're going to throw me money. Not a lot of money, but some money, and you might even throw me some money before that if I'm private consulting. But I'm pricey. I'm a very, very very expensive private consultant in comics, but investing that side. But anyway, I am curious before we get to rewards. How are you dealing with the, I guess, oncoming recession? I mean, we're in a recession. I mean, it's no secret. If Bitcoin fell below 20,000, and it did, and now it's back up to 21,000, Ethereum is completely fucked up. My Celsius account is locked, which I'm very upset about. I don't want to talk about it. It's I can't withdraw my money from like my crypto bank. It's terrible. It's a real problem. I'm earning interest, but I can't take my money out. It's a problem. But anyhow, oh no, the stock market's doing fantastic, everybody. But obviously, I was speaking with Mixum earlier today. They were a previous sponsor of mine, and speaking with I think the owner, and they're just weathering the storm. And I think you used Mixum for your first book. I don't know if you're using them again, but how are you dealing with, I guess, inflation, rising prices, wait times, paper shortage, and all the fun stuff that's going on?
The fortunate thing is we bought a big bundle of second print. I don't remember the last time we bought that. Honestly, it was probably a couple months ago. So we still haven't had to buy issues yet, and I'm imagining the next time we have to buy issues is issue 2. So with that being said, I'm not sure yet because we're using a company called. Hang on, let me. As soon as I see it on Printing Center USA is what the last one we used. For undisclosed reasons, we did use Mixam before, but we won't get into that. So, but prices did go up. Prices went up, and I guess it is what it is. It's just that's why that's why I kind of mentioned earlier was the first time we asked for 1,200, we hit 1,700. We saw what we did with the 1,700, and we took a little hit in the beginning because of shipping errors. So with the 2,000 is because a little bit of the prices have raised, and that's just natural because looking at the prices what they were when I bought the first batch of issue 1 compared to now, it's actually a huge difference, and you're like, what the hell? So with that,
I know exactly how much the difference is.
Yeah,
I mean, Mixon was a sponsor for 96 episodes from August to March. So I had Mixon for a very long time, and I sort of knew where it was going at the end of our sponsor, where there was a paper shortage and inflation was coming to head. But what were you saying?
Right. Yeah, that's just the problem right now, and that's why the goal is a little bit higher, so we can meet that difference and do a little bit more. Obviously, it'd be awesome if we can get over 2,000. Hell, it'd be awesome if we can just get 2,000 flat, because we can make the 2,000 work in the ways that we need it to work. We're very, I think, smart with what we're doing with our money and putting it in the proper places. Is we're kind of sitting down, we're looking at what we want, we're looking at what we need. So I think the 2,000 where we're at right now, we're gonna make go a long way. And again, like I mentioned already, probably 100 times, is the 2,000 is mostly because of the change in prices and all that stuff. And when we saw what we did with the 1,700, we were just adding a couple $100 on there to kind of separate the differences, because we're going to need to buy posters, cover prints, and all that stuff as well. And those also raise prices, not only the comics and bundles and all that stuff, but those kind of things raise prices as well.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. And then shipping is also
just I mentioned that earlier, but to mention that now as well, as shipping is another thing.
I know that because of my eBay business. And I didn't ship a comic book all of 2020. And then all of a sudden I was charging like $8. I'm like, oh snap, it's $11. And my margins were good enough that it was okay. But I was like, oh man, this is a difference. This is a pretty big difference.
It is, and it's annoying. It's simply annoying, and I'm not happy about it. But what are you going to do? You got to just fight through it, and hopefully in a couple of years it just subsides and we can all be normal again.
Oh, shipping's not coming down. I can tell you that.
Okay, so we're screwed then.
Shipping is going to be what it is, and also I ship expensively, but
right.
My books arrive perfectly. So I mean, I charge $11 for shipping, and if you're like, you're really expensive, and somebody else is charging $5, and I'm like, but my book will arrive perfectly. It's in a Gemini and it's protected.
Yeah.
So you get what you pay for.
Exactly. Right.
I also have insurance on all my books, and there you go. That's the other thing too, is that I have insurance on everything up to $50, and if it's over 100, I add another $50 of insurance. I've learned that lesson once, and I don't need to learn it again.
That's a good thing.
It was very upsetting. I was more upset that a beautiful book got lost.
I hate the idea of that too. And I think I just crinkled something up the other day. It wasn't a comic or anything. It was like a poster, and I had it for years, and it was kept in a case, and I took it out, and I go, I get it. It's heartbreaking.
But it was a beautiful book. It was like a Spider-Man number 25, and like, oh man, it was like minimized. It was a 9.8. It was just terrible. That got lost. But it got lost in Jersey, which means, and New Jersey is corrupt, so it's expected. Anytime I send something to New Jersey now, I legitimately buy the maximum amount of insurance that I can buy. And since then, I've sent like 20 packages to Jersey. None of them got lost.
Of course. And the moment you don't do the insurance with that it's getting lost again.
Only in New Jersey it gets lost, but I digress. Only in New Jersey, everybody. But anyway, I do want to talk about rewards. So obviously there's the digital copy, there's the physical copy, there's the variant cover, there's the physical issues of 1 and 2. I'm pretty sure.
Here, let me. I wanted to let you show the variant cover. Let me send it to you. That's cover A. That's just the inking of cover A. I meant to email this to you this morning. Let me email this to you real quick.
And so there's a lot of stuff. Obviously, there's a cover print. There's also a poster with print and poster issue 2, which we're going to get in a second here. And then there's some other rewards as well. And so obviously, what was this like? Really, just also giving the catch up, because that's a big thing and that's a big deal for people to be able to catch up behind the older stuff.
Yeah, no, it was actually got criticized for not doing a PDF for issue 1 and 2, but yeah, no, the catch up tiers I think are important. I mean, if I were to see this Kickstarter and I didn't see the first one, and I looked at this and I'm like, oh, I like this Kickstarter, and then I saw that that's probably what I would buy, just so I can have them both. And I mean, I probably would buy more depending on how much I really liked it. But yeah, I would probably buy the catch-up thing and that's why we have a lot. We had 30 total of the catch-up backers. But I did just also email cover A and B to you. This will be the first time we show the public cover B.
I'm just waiting for them to come.
Oh, did it not send yet?
Unless they just haven't come yet. But even going into that, because that's kind of a big deal, I think, to some degree, is that, and this is a big problem I feel with people on Kickstarter to some degree, where they don't give catch-ups, and also people are very I guess they don't want to share a they have variants like from issue 1, and they don't want to even put some of their old stock up. And I'm kind of like, wait a second, why, if you have it and it's a Kickstarter exclusive, why wouldn't you distribute it in issue 2?
Right,
and that stuff, because I think that's also a mishap, because I think people forget that, look, we were speaking about it before, but all of a sudden people have money at certain times in the year, and then they don't have money. And also projects conflict, and you got to make a choice on what you're going to back, and then you miss something, and then you get completely screwed out of it.
Right, and that's actually a good point to even bring up to why we did 60 days as well, because again, that's another point. Is it's something I've heard time and time again, is like, I can't for this check or next check, and some people get paid bi-weekly. So when you get hit with that stuff, so I think at least for me, that's just another argument for us why we did 60 days.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting, and I think that a lot of people don't understand finances, and don't understand when people get paid.
Oh, we lost him again.
With everything that's going on in comics, is that it's great to have a loyal fan, but it's also great to understand their economics and also pace them. And it sounds crazy, because
right,
saying you could kill the cow and get all the meat and make your money on the cow, or you could milk the cow instead and make a little bit of money, but make it over time. And I think that's a big misunderstanding, I feel. Because my take is that most people who do Kickstarter do not understand how to run a business and don't understand how to engage in a business.
No, and I guess we didn't for the first issue. We just, and again, we kind of just targeted a specific friends and family. So I guess just being self-aware and understanding. Don't try to aim for the the hills there, or like however that reference goes. I can't even think right now because I'm trying to like. Did that send?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. But I wasn't sure if it was my end, if it was going. But yeah, a lot of people probably they just blindly just do all this stuff, and then they don't hit the mark, and then they're wasting their own time. I guess just have self-awareness, understand that you need to build a following, you need to do interviews, you need to be relevant, you need to be constantly out there in front of people's faces and showing them what you got and why they should invest in your project, and that's it. That's another reason why we didn't want to do anything crazy with our goal. We are self-aware of the situation. We just want to, we're just going to trickle up a little bit here and there. And I'm hoping
to even talk about that, and then we're going to show the covers in a second. One of the things that I also think people don't understand is that, obviously when you're spending money on a comic, you got to pay for the art, you got to pay for the printing. Even if you have money from Kickstarter coming in, it is expensive. And every dollar you spend goes into something that it's an investment in a lot of ways, and it could go really well or it could go really bad, and it can be a failure, and there's an opportunity cost. And I feel like some people really burn down and don't know how to run a P&L statement, and they're not exactly, spending their money wisely. And I think that's a big problem. And it's
Right.
the idea, so for instance, if your comic costs $6,000, and that you can get in the stock market, and this is not stock price, but 10% every year, that means that you gave up not $6,000, but $600, and you gave that up. That $600 gain or that $660 gain every single year in the stock market on average by buying, and investing and doing your comic. And I think that's what people really need to understand. If you say anybody can do a comic, and I feel that's really bad advice.
No, and it's when I did more of this, when I went through the writing process, the interactions with the artists and all that stuff, you do realize how much it is harder than it is than just saying anybody can do it. Because I believe that you could do whatever you put your mind to, but it's not easy work. Don't think it's going to be easy work, because then that's what gets you messed up, and that's what gets you burnt out as well. Is because when you think it's easy, you're just going to go, the first sign of trouble, you're like, screw this, I'm done. Just like people who go to the gym, when they lift too heavy, and then the next fucking week they're sore as hell. They're like, I'm never going to the gym again. You know what I mean? Just understand that there's a process with this. It ain't going to be easy. It's
also the So what, anybody can produce and write a comic. That's not necessarily what I mean, that you can't do it. What I mean is that not everybody is going to get a rate of return on their book. Yeah. Not everybody's going to break even. And also, you can produce them, but you might not be able to sell it. And that's the whole thing. And you also have to calculate, your risk rewards. But, that's, again, a different discussion. But I do want to show cover A. So this is cover A.
Yep. That we did post on the Kickstarter. Obviously, after this interview, we'll post cover B on the updated Kickstarter as well.
And then this is cover B.
That is cover B.
And so obviously, those are out there. They're very cool in that regard. Obviously, people can check those out. Super interesting in that front. And then obviously, there's a lot more stuff coming with all this. And so that's something to watch out for. And then obviously, we've been speaking for like an hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah, I see it there.
Yeah. So, and I do want to back out of your entire campaign. And I do want to give you a chance for self-promotion, because I spoke a lot about Kickstarter, a lot about where the world's going. We're all fucked. I'm just letting everybody know. Yeah. Don't worry. I'm solving a lot of problems tomorrow night, at least turning your wheels in a different way.
Oh, yeah.
But you should be there, 9:00. It's free. Facebook, YouTube, another group. You can just find it on this page, all that fun stuff. I'll promote it in a second. But where can people find you, bother you, hit you up, check out your project, get issue 2, just give you money randomly, whatever they desire?
Yeah, you can find us practically on every social media platform right now, Facebook, Instagram, Patreon. We have stuff actually being sold on Redbubble as well. There is a link tree on the main social medias that have all of our information. Currently, I want to mention as well, other than the Kickstarter, obviously, which would be great, help us out, donate all you can so we can get this out there. We love it and all that stuff. I'm actually going to send you a T-shirt link. It actually ends this Friday. It's a 2-week online store, and it's a T-shirt that simply just has Avalon written on top or written around the chest there. It's limited right now, and depending on how much we get and how much noise we get from it, we have an idea to do an actual like a decor kind of look with the artist's the artwork, that stuff, and putting it on the shirt and putting that out there and making those limited as well. So that's what we got right now. We have the Kickstarter link. We were obviously why I'm here and all that stuff, other than talking to you, because I love talking to you too. And I'm not, it's always a good time, but yeah, anything we can get, we love it. We love what we do. If you donate to us with good product, we have a team here working on it. It's going to be good. We're not messing around with it. So.
And then obviously I'm going to keep saying this and checking this out and promoting it. And obviously, indie comics cannot be done without economic support. Any indie project cannot be done without economic support. So you definitely need to actually throw money at live Kickstarters, this one included, if it suits your boat. If money's tight, or you're like, hey, I'm not too sure about it, or you have skepticism, or whatever reason, you can share it out. You can put it on your Facebook wall, you could tweet it out, you could throw it on Instagram, you could just send it and tell a friend. If you have a show, you could obviously have Brandon on and all that stuff. That's also very important. And sharing anything out is just as important as financially backing. And it goes a long, long way when people do that. And also when people tell somebody about it. Also, shooting a creator a message, hey, really liked Avalon 1. Super stoked for first issue 2. Can't wait for it. Or Andy's being a dick. That's an acceptable thing too.
It's true. No, but we like the feedback, and that's something that we like to also mention as well. As any suggestions, any feedback. Hey, so and so character's pissing you off, like you mentioned, or anything like you really liked it, you really hated it, whatever it is. We want to hear your feedback.
Even what product you want. If you like metal cards or you like metal comic covers, you say, hey, I really like art prints. I would love an art print of said. That is also all very useful feedback for any creator saying, hey, I really like X. One of the things is that, and I'm going to be asking people when I run my next thing saying, hey, what do you want that would help your stuff and that I can provide to you as a podcaster? And it's a very, very interesting, discussion saying, look, what is going to help you? What is actually going to help you as a creator that will get you more exposure? And those are great questions to ask, or even just certain products. Some people love mini art prints and they're like, hey, I want that stuff. And that's super important. But, obviously all that is important. But following people on social media and backing their project is extremely crucial. As far as I'm concerned, obviously I have a Redbubble store. I have this shirt up there right now. It's a Gundam shirt. It's making fun of Fallout, Amuro Ray, the most interesting man in the world, Taco Bell. And I am working on a second shirt right now with Char, who is sort of the main villain, and Char and Amuro are like bromancing together. It's fantastic. If you're a Gundam fan, you could pick up that shirt, or you could get it in a mini skirt. So yes, you could actually get that on a mini skirt, and I approve. I absolutely approve. So you could go do that. Also, I have in the link up above my class/lecture tomorrow night. It's free. It's on Facebook. It's in my Facebook groups. It's in a bunch of cool stuff. It's going to be a fun time. And if you want your brain to sort of get a very intro level into comic book investing, it is going to be a blast. And there's a lot of fun stuff going on in there. I'm not giving away all the secrets, but I'm giving away some of them and getting people's brains thinking a little bit. And it's going to be a good time. And then there's after hours, which will be recorded, and I'm not too sure what we're going to do with that. That might be on Patreon, and actually I might charge for that, like $5. So, we could go there, or maybe I'll just put it on OnlyFans, or maybe I'll just put it on ManyVids for all I care. I think it'd be funny if it's on ManyVids. I think I'm gonna put it on many vids. Actually, now that I think about it, just be that guy. What do you have a non-pornographic lecture on comic book investing on many vids? I'm like, because I can. But having said all that, obviously you can buy me a coffee too. I appreciate when people do that. It's a way how to support this show. Somebody basically said I should not ask people for money. Well, fuck them. The person knows who they are, and let's just say Flip is not too happy about that. And anybody who knows anything about that, that's a code word. And on that point, I'm going to give you the final word.
Yeah, thank you guys. All the support is awesome. I love the community. I love going out. One thing that I kind of post on our social media and all that stuff as well is we kind of go out there. Our favorite part is meeting everybody, meeting the people who actually want to buy and help support and actually enjoy the comic. That's our favorite part through all this stuff. We can't do this without all you guys, all the support, all the love, all the contact. Let us know. Talk to us. We want to talk to you guys. It's all important to us. We want to get as personal as possible with you guys. Please help us out. We're trying to do our best to get this out. The more money we get, the faster we can get it all out. So with that being said, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Andrew, for having me on your show again.
Yeah, no problem. And on that note, everybody, that is a wrap.